Many folks were joking that they were the ones to take AO3 out, but personally, I feel that the truth belongs in the Fandom Hall of Fame. So right around America's big birthday celebration over the 4th of July weekend, there was a bit of a whoopsie with AO3. Archive of Our Own, one of the biggest fanfiction hubs online. If you don't know what AO3 is, I'm curious how you got here. On the night of July 2nd, it became known that there was an issue involving bookmarks, and that users couldn't make them. For those who don't know, if you have an AO3 account, you can bookmark fix and add additional notes and tags. You can save them to collections or recommend them. And this is so you can keep track of specific fics you're reading, what you want to save for later, or just hoard your favorites. Honestly, it's a great feature I should probably use more often than I do, but I digress. But yeah, users were having issues creating bookmarks. Shortly after that first announcement, AO3 staff were able to determine the cause of the issue and stated that they would be able to remedy it within the next few days. On the morning of July 3rd, we got this status update. If you see the AO3 maintenance mode message, please try again with your VPN off. If needed, we might need to put the site in maintenance mode for everyone. Many AO3 readers noticed though that even if they didn't have VPNs, the site still wasn't working for them. They couldn't access it. And then just under 3 hours later, we got this message. To fully fix bookmark creation, we will need to put AO3 in maintenance mode for a few hours. We'll be back once the fix has been fully applied. People were already losing their minds after the previous announcements. AO3 was working for some folks, it wasn't working for others, it was spotty at best, and readers were trying to exchange tips on how to access the site. But this was the kicker. AO3 was down for maintenance for a grand total of 10 hours, from 10 a.m. PST to 8 p.m. PST. And like every other time AO3 is temporarily unavailable, fic enjoyers were not okay. The withdrawals were hitting everybody hard. Countless Twitter memes, Tumblr posts, TikTok videos were being blasted everywhere. The AO3 subreddit was getting flooded, and it got to the point where people were like, can y'all stop freaking out so that way the posts with actual information and status updates don't get buried under all the screaming? I was trying to figure out my anime expo plans the day this all went down. There was a fire at the convention. If I had a nickel for every convention I attended this year that caught on fire at some point, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I'm attending Anime NYC in August. If that also catches on fire, then I may have to stop going to cons for a while. And so I didn't actually hop on to AO3 until around noon. I was trying to read a fic where JVic were making cupcakes while their kids were at school, and they end up in the kitchen. Alas, I got this, and no matter what fic I tried to access out of the hundreds of AO3 tabs I have opened on my phone, all I saw was this. It was frustrating. I was in the middle of a couple Dinluke fics because Dinluke week just passed on Tumblr. They were recording, Luke was learning about Mandalorian customs, Grogu was there, it was really cute, and then I was cut off. I feel like an addict. So I might have freaked out a little bit too, and some people were like, dude, calm down, it's just maintenance. I don't have a problem, I swear. But yeah, 10 hours later, on July 3rd, at the end of the day, AO3 was back up and running. However, users were still having issues adding tags to their bookmarks as well as adding bookmarks to collections. They were getting error messages, and so this problem was worked on the morning of July 4th, and so that was taken care of. But then there were reports of slowness, the site not loading, the subscription button not working, troubles with emails and search and history updates. It turns out with the whole bookmark debacle, other features were taking a minute to catch up. There was a delay, a backlog, but finally, definitively, early in the morning of July 5th, AO3 was good to go. And it's been working fine for me ever since, but wow, what a weekend, right? Now, you might be wondering what caused all of this to happen. To put it simply, AO3 reached the maximum capacity of bookmarks it could support on the site. We used all of the bookmarks AO3 could possibly offer. The way bookmarks were previously counted with AO3's code, there was a limit to how many bookmarks there could be before what's called an integer overflow would happen, which is basically like trying to shove a book into an already full bookshelf. You try to squeeze the book in, but it's physically impossible, and oops, the shelf fell apart. Basically, someone filled up the very last spot on AO3's bookshelf with their bookmark, and when others tried to squeeze their bookmarks in, the code was like, yeah, there's no more room, and the error messages commenced. Hence, maintenance mode to fix the broken shelf. When you're coding, there are different data types you can use, depending on what you're building, and realistically how much data you think you're going to be working with. Int, or integer, is considered the standard, standard, and integers can be either signed or unsigned. Unsigned integers will give you more room to work with, but signed integers are typically the default for programming languages. During AO3's conception, coders used a signed integer for the bookmark count because, again, it's the default, and also because the founders never expected that the site would ever hit the maximum capacity for bookmarks. The signed 32-bit integer limit, aka the maximum value for data, is 2,147,483,647, which is 2 to the 31st power. Compare that to the unsigned 32-bit integer limit, aka 2 to the 32nd power, which is 4,294,967,295. If AO3 went with an unsigned integer instead of a signed integer from the get-go, we probably would have run into this exact same bookmark debacle just a couple years later, maybe even sooner at the rate we were going at. So, in order to up the site's capacity for bookmarks, AO3 had to change from the integer data type to what's called a big int, or big integer. And as you can see, the limit, the maximum value for that is much, much bigger. If we're somehow able to reach that in my lifetime... However, to change the database and migrate everything over, that takes a lot of time, and so that's why AO3 was down for maintenance. Ta-da! Case closed, and now we have a lot more room for bookmarks. Gotta reiterate that the founders of the archive never expected that we'd reach 1 billion bookmarks, let alone over 2 billion. And this isn't the first time the archive has had to deal with this situation. A hot second ago, the marked for later database also had to get migrated. Everything goes to show just how much the archive has grown in recent years. But what is, dare I say, the most intriguing, hilarious, cursed part of this whole AO3 bookmark saga is the final fic that was bookmarked before everything unraveled. Many folks were joking that they were the ones to take AO3 out with their bookmarks, but personally, I feel that the truth belongs in the Fandom Hall of Fame. I do want to make it clear that this was not the fic that broke AO3. We'll never know what the fic was that caused the integer overflow because it just never went through. But this fic was the very last fic to be bookmarked. It was bookmark number 2,147,483,647. Think of this as like the last animal on Noah's Ark. The very last fic to be bookmarked on AO3 before it had to go down for maintenance was an explicit Omegaverse Dead Dove Do Not Eat One Direction Larry fic written by an anonymous author, with tags including and not limited to shock collar, electric torture, cages, potential for a sequel, oh wait, boy and Louis Tomlinson has a small cock. Honestly, I was more surprised that people were still writing Larry fics in 2025, but you know what? Good for them. And to wrap up everything with a nice pretty bow and give a happy ending to this story, on Twitter, Tumblr posted, AO3 is back up, guys, don't worry. And someone asked, Tumblr, do you and AO3 have a relationship we don't know about? Which led to Tumblr publicly asking AO3 if they wanted to go steady, and AO3 said yes! Only if, when we move in together, you're okay with my 15 million fics for our library. Guys, Tumblr and AO3 are dating. Fandom sites found love before I did. So this person was just ahead of their time then. Damn, Apollo's dodgeball hit them hard. If anyone wants to be the Tumblr to my AO3, then let me know. DashCon 2 just happened recently too. Tumblr, you've been busy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that little dive into recent AO3 news. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you had fun and learned something new. Do you personally use the bookmark feature on AO3 a lot? When I'm searching for fics to read in a new fandom, typically I'll sort by bookmarks first, just because that means that people are saving them to read for later or hoarded them away for themselves, and it's like, oh, people must really enjoy these, so must be some pretty good stuff, right? That's just me, though. If you want more fanfiction and fandom and fan culture-esque videos from yours truly, then feel free to subscribe. Thank you all again so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
안녕.